patient orientation class specifically for online version, and later there'll be tests and whatnot. So a little background, I used to do this every single Monday night, and patients would have to come in, and the reason why is not because I wanted to spend time away from my family or take time away from someone's family, but when we get to the end of this, it's 100% of the patients who have done it has said thank you, and it was not a waste of my time. So that's not my goal, is not to waste your time, but is make sure that it's an informed decision as well too. So thank you for being here. Again, the goal is about 37 minutes or less, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I always go with awkward moments in life, and this is when I was first introduced to chiropractic. I was out running, and my low back and hip seized up. I couldn't even hardly take a step, and my mom said, you should go to a chiropractor. And I had no knowledge about chiropractic, didn't know what it was, and I thought they're kind of weird or whatever, but I went, and my mom said, give it a shot, and so I went anyways, and they helped what was going on, but they explained why. From everybody who's in the past or patients have been told, is they just slap you on the table and adjust you, and then they come to like, well, what happened? This one did not. This one explained what was going on, so it made sense. Next day was career day, junior year of high school, and they're like, they ask you the question, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And I said, well, I want to do this chiropractic thing. It was pretty neat, but it helped with, for me, kissing tonsils. I had tonsils the size of softballs most of my life, and it was about 20 some years. And it wasn't until later out, even in chiropractic school, one day I started getting adjusted, and I found out that these nerves go to those tonsils, and my tonsils are now normal size, opposed to constantly inflamed. I used to have seasonal allergies. I used to have heart palpitations. I used to have stomach issues. I used to have all sorts of different health challenges. But now I'll tell you, they're doing better, which is super great. And I wanted to know why. And I want to make sure that patients understand why as well too. But we're going to talk about how 10% of the nervous system is pain. And when people start making health care decisions about pain, that's when it doesn't make sense. So anyways, still a goofy guy. I'm still goofy. I have a lot different hair, less, but 3 kids will do that to you. So anyways, I always go back to, I love patients, especially those have migraines, and see them on the other side. If anybody's ever had a migraine, it destroys your life. This gal was about a year into practice, and I started going to a lot more seminars, and I started treating differently than pain, but I started diving deeper into my consultations, find out what was going on. So this gal had 24 years of migraines. She was a front desk gal at Sanford. Great gal. She tried a lot of different things, been just about everywhere. She told me that she tried every medication. Her medical doctor ran out of medications of what to put her on. Obviously the Imitrex, all the, oh my gosh, the shots, the injections. She went to Mayo, and they said it's all in your head. And she, there's classes and courses that people are supposed to go to on that. But she got to the point where her doc gave her anti-Alzheimer's medication, and that was her option. And so she started losing her memory. So she's 42 years old when she comes in, and about 18 years old when she started getting these, and then it's been getting worse. It's never been corrected. So she comes in, and we found out what was causing her issue, did a super light test adjustment, and she said it was the first time she felt her arm in 2 years. So I called that a good test adjustment. Believe me, she had a lot more than migraines, but we fast forward, I think it was about 4 or 5 months into care, she sits up and says, today, Dr. Wubin, I'm at 100%. And I think that was one of my most pivotal cases when I was early in practice as well too, to say no one is too far gone, because I always ask the question, and if you were here at a patient orientation class in person, I would say, hey, how many chiropractors do you think she'd been to? And usually when people say, well, none, she went to 14 different chiropractors prior to coming in. And again, I'm not any better, but the main thing is I would say I work really, really hard for patient results. And the main reason is I believe this is someone's life. I've had about a handful of patients who've really told me I've thought about ending my life, but thank you for educating me. So my passion is probably the biggest thing. And literally this saves marriages, this saves lives. But anyway, she came in and she did a test adjustment and did real well. And fast forward, she sits up and says, I'm at 100%. And the cool thing is in about 7 years, she's only had one migraine. And she has went about 24 years with every single day nearly of her life for 24 years was migraines. Anyways, we have quite a bit of testimonies, and Xavier, if you ever get a chance to browse the website or step in the office, there's about 200 or so testimonies on the wall here alone. It's just stories of hope, and that's all this is just stories of hope. But the fun thing is Dawn here is, so as far as I know, she is migraine free still to this day, which is super cool. And the best part is she's probably given hope to well over 800 different patients here at our office. And so her pain was a platform for her purpose, but ultimately she was able to get that quality of life things and enjoy simple things like driving with the windows down, and then eventually not having sunglasses when she was just normal daily things. And then I remember one time she said, Dr. Rubin said after it was better, I'm going to go ride the roller coasters in Disney. And she did, and she didn't even have a headache. So I thought it was pretty cool. Again, a long time ago, but still, it was one of that first case. I mean, when you get that first one, since then we've had multiple people have been told there's no hope, and I'm just going to here to tell you that's the exact opposite. But we got to find the cause. That's right. So that's our main goal. So I just want to thank you for being here. One of the biggest gifts we have is the gift of knowledge, but also it's applied knowledge, and it's really the gift of health. So our gift really to you is just we want to give you the gift of health. Or someone that you know as well too, but maybe you know someone in a different state or whatever. If you know someone who has a health challenge, let us know. I'd love to serve, obviously, as many people as you can, but location is a big one. If you know someone who needs help, let us know. We're here to serve. We do talk. Stop. I do want to get your permission as well. I'm not against medical doctors. I'm sure everyone's heard of chiropractors and medical doctors who are banging their heads, and that's not the goal. The whole goal on this is really to get patient results, and that's what we're going to talk about. So again, I'm not against medical doctors. I'm not against nurses. Quite contrary, I believe they have a passion and a calling, but the tools they have are drugs or surgeries, and again, they're not bad people by any means. But if you look at my hand, or if you were here to see my hand, you look at it one way, you would see fingernails, and I would see fingerprints, and we're just trained two different ways. But again, that's not our goal. It's not to bash them by any means. I know plenty of them. We actually have patients who are gastroenterologists, hepatologists. We've had top spine surgeons come in, nurses, tons of nurses. Oh my gosh, tons of nurses. Funny thing is they're the most skeptical patient initially, but until like we're going to talk about today, the why, they become the greatest patient. And that's what's called informed consent. So hopefully I beat that one pretty good, but that's not my goal to beat anybody down. It's just saying, hey, something's not working in our healthcare system. I think everyone would agree with that. So this is Journal of American Medical Association. I really want to look at this. Deviation of the body center of gravity, poor posture have resulted in intestinal problems, hemorrhoids, varicose veins, osteoporosis, hip and foot deformities. And here's the United States is really poor health, decreased quality of life, and a shortened lifespan. And I just go back to this intestinal problems. We've had patients who've come across. We've got some patients that drive 2.5, 3 hours almost to come to see us, and the reason why is it's pretty bad at that point in time. Unfortunately, they said I've been everywhere, I've done everything. We had a truck driver who had a pretty substantial auto injury from 1981, and fast forward, we're going to talk about some issues, but when it came to digestive issues, and you can fill in the blanks, but he says, I knew where every hay bale was. And just read between the lines on that one, but 15 bowel movements a day, and fast forward, found his cause, and now he's having one a day, which is great. Inversely, we had a gal with gastroparesis. It's a paralyzation pretty much, or gastro means stomach, paresis means paralysis, but basically lack of communication from the brain on down to the tummy or intestines. And what happened was she was ended up eating like, I think, applesauce for, I think it was 8 months, which is crazy if you think about it, but she joined a Facebook group, and you pretty much end up on a feeding tube and then you die. So it's not a good prognosis for gastroparesis. Fast forward, the cool things we found out what was going on and causing her problem. And wonderful gal, young gal, did not look unhealthy. But again, she got to the point she was having 3 to 4 weeks between bowel movements. So obviously there was not communication from the brain on down into the intestine. But again, she's now at one a day, which is super cool. But if it wasn't for this too, I got to make sure we get our ground foundation. That's where it's at. It's all about the spine and the nervous system, and most people think chiropractic's all about pain, and that's a small percentage. Roughly 10 to 20% or so of our nervous system is pain. But I would say it's about that 10. I've heard the low is 7, but right around that 10% roughly is the nervous system is pain. So we got to look at what function is, and if we can proact versus react. And it's fun seeing people on the other side. And I actually, funny because I did this patient orientation class once after I gave a test adjustment to a patient, and she goes, oh my gosh, this stuff helps with hemorrhoids? And that's that right there. And one of those people that if you ever meet in public, she's just like totally blunt, which we love them. But she goes, well, anyways, it's out there. She said, tell you what, I have, ever since our first test adjustment, one adjustment and the next, she goes, I had 7.5 years of hemorrhoids and I no longer have them. after her 7.5-year-old twins were born. So again, the big thing is, do we treat hemorrhoids? Do we treat intestinal gastroparesis, constipation, Crohn's, irritable bowel? No, we don't treat that. What we find is what's going on. Something's going on in the deviation body center of gravity, and that's the spine, and that's what we're going to address today. So anyways, the unfortunate problem with our healthcare system is a lot of money's been lost and spent. You know, bankruptcy, the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical related bankruptcy. Our healthcare premiums aren't going down for costs. I mean, I haven't used mine in the past however many years, but my premiums still keep going up, and it's good for crisis care, but just for when it comes from healthcare, that's a big contradiction as well too. And again, I'm not against anybody. It's just there's something that's just not working. When people should be spending their money on the things they like or quality of life things for their health, but just the things in life they love. But unfortunately, you know, and I even have pharmacists who are patients, so again, it's not against them either, but a lot of times the medication companies, you know, drug companies, you know, we spent over about $300 billion last year on the medications, and combined profits of the top Fortune 500 about that 35.9 billion. It's probably up to since I've last done this. But again, I'm not opposed to people making money if they're helping people, but the big thing is about 80% of the budget is really on marketing, and it's marketing to consumers versus doctors. And I think it's New Zealand, United States. I believe it's New Zealand, United States. Anyways, there's 2 nations where it's actually legal to market to anybody else. But anyways, just from an overall standpoint, just if it was only to doctors, it would make sense. And this is where the doctors, again, they're not the bad people, but when you have people coming in saying, I want this, I need this, I need this, I want this. Believe me, I was having a conversation with a doc, and he's like, they're yelling and screaming at me if I don't give it to them. So they almost want to appease them to see if it'll help too. So, yeah, so it's an unfortunate deal, but something's not working. And yet here we are, 79th out of 81 countries in the total healthcare index, even when we spend, I mean, it's just a sick amount of money. But something's just not working when we go through everything. All right, and so this is actually something I need to update, but this is 2013, and if you look at everything here, this is the healthcare expenditures in the thousands. All you do is you just look at it and you go, you see an outlier right here. It's the United States of America, and in 2013 was spending about $250 per every person in the United States. And the interesting thing is, if you come up here, this is the average life expectancy, and you just, by the way, check this out. Success leaves clues. I had a gastroenterologist who was talking about the difference between Eastern and Western medicine. Great guy, but he was a medical doctor who's taken about 13 medications himself because his stomach wasn't working. It was just an interesting combo. Again, he is not the problem. He's a great guy, probably one of the coolest guys I've ever met, but he's just said there's such a disconnect with that. But anyways, that was 2013. Fast forward in 2016, it jumped $10,345. And I still have to update this in 2019, since it's 2019 now is when I'm recording this. But just from an overall standpoint, it's just, I'd have to imagine it's more than that right now. But it's a bugger. Something's not happening in the right way. But the 5 worst words that ever enter the office is maybe it'll go away. And it's sometimes we'll have people giggle, but something goes away when you find out the cause. And the unfortunate thing is people have spent and done all these things, and they've never found what's causing it. So this is from one of my mentors. This is Dr. James Chestnut. I give 100% credit. I want to make sure I do that. He is one of my just my biggest mentor. If you ever go to Nate Choice or Wellness Champions or .com, or yeah, is it Wellness Champions? I'm trying to think. No, not Wellness Champions. Is Glacki. There we go. I want to make sure I got this here. The Wellness Practice. My apologies. The wellnesspractice.com. I tell you what, this guy woke me up, but he made everything. He's so smart. But there's so much knowledge and research, and I could give you all the research, but it's super boring, and the reason why is because most people don't care. So he made it so simple, but he said all these stressors in life are like rocks in a backpack. And these rocks right here are different stressors, and it could be anything from how you eat, how you move, how you think, and there's all these different principles as well. But the main thing is when we go through life, there's different stressors that build up, and you see that person is starting to have some challenges, and then eventually what happens is they end up having some massive health challenges down here, and they end up making crisis care decisions. And then they say, hey, can you help me, doc? How come it's not going away in a short period of time? Well, it's unfortunate, but if we first got to find what are the stressors, and again, it's not necessarily the fact that we're deficient in either drugs or surgery, and again, there's a time and a place for everything, but there's different lifestyle things that have got someone to this point, typically, but it's easier to address it sooner than later. So anyways, so we have a system on how to check a lot of those things, but it's a few things. So anyways, I go through the 4 different frustrations. Specifically is when people put it off. They know they have a problem, but they put it off, and it's like this leaky roof. It never gets better on its own. Matter of fact, this is usually when people start coming in and they start saying, "Oh, it's so horrible, I can't move. How come it's not going away in a week or a day or a short period of time?" And the thing is, typically what we found is some things, like if you're 30 or 40 years old, some things might be back in high school, but it pushed off till one day something happened. Like if you ask a general contractor to look at this roof, there might be black mold, insulation, rotten wood, etc., or whatever. But the whole point is people put it off too long often. The other one is frustration. Again, is more just at just covering up the problem. This is the Tylenol, or that acetaminophen is number one cause of acute liver failure in the United States. And again, we have pharmacists who, as patients, go amen on this. But the thing is, when people are masking the symptoms, destroying their organs or body just to cover it up, it's like a check engine light and slapping some duct tape on it. It doesn't make sense, and we might giggle about it, but all you got to do is read the side effects. And we're taking pills and pills and pills. It's just not working. And I'm just honest with everybody. It's not because I need people to be here. It's just kind of like, if you're going to go to get good results about your spine, it's no different than if you want to get good results if you're going to go to the gym or go work out. But people are missing their appointments, and here's why. That same gentleman I was talking about in 1981 hit a horse, and it ripped the top of his T-bird off, and him along with it. And what happened was he ended up in a metal cast for about a year. He ended up having his first spine surgery later, and second, third, and he even flew to Birmingham, Germany for a $500,000 out-of-pocket surgery that didn't work. And holy moly, just a lot of stuff. He was on, 12 different tramadol. Just, oh gosh, he's had a whole mass of things. Truck driver, 4,000 head of cattle. What happened was, we have a patient orientation class that was in-house, and his daughter came to it and said, "Dad, you got to go." And we'll talk about later kind of some reasons why, post-surgical cases. But he had, what was it? I think it was like, I sometimes ask, like, "Hey, I'm interested. How much do you think has been spent on your health?" And he said it was, and he actually calculated it. He said it was over $3 million were spent on his health between surgeries and all this other stuff. And he said he's getting worse. And anyways, found out what was causing his super light adjustment, no guesswork. We didn't adjust him on the first day, and the reason why, there's some people that don't like this. This is why we don't do anything. We just don't guess. I think one of the most frustrating thing, maybe as a patient, is how come chiropractic doesn't work, or they're frustrated at chiropractors. Well, at the same time, I make sure that we just don't do any guesswork. So we just go through a very thorough thing to say, aha, this is how much, the why, the what, and whatever, to ultimately get you the best, or whoever the best results. And that's what that cake looks like. So he lives about 2.5 roughly hours away, and we gave him a care plan, and we have to go a series of time, back to back to back adjustments. And it was the middle of February, so it's snowing in South Dakota here, and I asked him, I said, "All right, Jeff, what do you think?" Because I don't know, I just told him what he needed. Not what I wanted or what he wanted, but he was 2.5 hours, so I didn't beat around the bush. I just said that's what it is. And he goes, "Easy." And it was kind of funny, because I got some patients here who are like, they have a hard time grasping the concept. If they want to get results, it takes time. He goes, "Easy." Like, "Jeff, tell me more, buddy. This is kind of blowing my mind. I'm loving it." But he goes, "No, you don't realize I flew to Birmingham, Germany, took a month out of my life for a failed $500,000 surgery. Do you think I can't make it down?" And he's a truck driver. So thing is, he never missed an appointment, was never late, followed every single thing. And believe me, there's nutrients as a part of a care plan. If we're looking at this cake, you can't just throw in whatever you want. There's certain things. Our cells are made up of the right omega-3 and vitamin D. There's even some probiotics for gut health. These all make up the cells. There's different stretches, there's exercise, there's spinal motion, there's everything that would put together the thing. He did it all. Followed it, fast forward, 7 months or so into care. He's pretty much off all medication, and that was his goal. His quality of life is through the roof. His pain is just massively, massively decreased. Or the part where he hardly has any pain anymore. It's rarely an issue. But I give him the most kudos. We have a lot of really, really committed patients, and that's one thing. Is I can't be more committed, or the doc or the patient. I mean, it's a teamwork. But yeah, he was probably one of our most committed for time, effort, energy, and got awesome results. But the most frustrating phrase or sentence when people say, "Yeah," and here's the results here, is, "Yeah, I tried chiropractic and it didn't work." The chiropractor, and again, I'm not against other chiropractors. Man, they're saving lives. I know it. But when we talk about the why we do things different, we don't focus on pain only here. And there's some that do, and that's the only thing. And then, bless their hearts, that's what it's there for. We look at the functional component, which is 90% of everything. So we have two totally different outcomes. I don't want to slap some duct tape on it and reduce the pain. We want to talk about the function. But a lot of people said, yeah, I tried chiropractic and it didn't work. Well, they weren't told how long the healing time frame is, how to do it, what to do, what nutrients, what stretches, what exercises, what their spine looked like before and what after, and their progress through care. They just go through a series and say, yeah, I tried it, it didn't work. So here's the deal. Chiropractic always works when it doesn't just question the philosophy or the technique. And I've had patients that, hey, we haven't got the best results, but I checked it, I knew it. I'm very involved with our state and local association. I knew exactly based on the case who to send them to. Cool thing is that person came back and said, hey, I wasn't getting results here, but thank you so much for sending me to that doc. I'm so much better. And the whole point is it's not about me. And it's cool. It's about that person, that patient they're calling their dreams in life. And that's really what it's about. So we all have a goal to get the ultimate. Patients want the best results and we want to give them, but we just got to follow a timing and a recipe. And the other frustration, thank you, Amazon Prime. It's hard to compete, but we can't rush nature. Holy smokes. We want this fixed. We want it fixed yesterday, but the minimum amount of time it takes the body to heal is 90 days. I didn't design it. It's kind of like a baby. There's a rushing, you can't rush that, but research is very clear. The minimum is 90 days, and the upper end is right around that 2 years or 500 days, depending on this thing called severity. So the whole point is we just can't rush nature. So different causes of spinal misalignments. Slips, falls, bang, booms. If you're 50 years old and you've never had your spine checked, but you've had a cumulative amount of things that go back to childhood, yeah, those things could build up, but also this one right here, it could go back to birth. They did a study on this from pulling on the spine, said the average OB was about 170 pounds. And the interesting thing, if this is a live one, I love watching people's faces more from a response standpoint. But I say, hey, I have 3 kids, roughly about 7 pounds average. I said, who here would palm a newborn infant by their head? And it's funny to watch eyebrows wrinkle and almost mad faces and like, whoa, just kind of this silly, like, but no one would do it, right? It just makes sense. And that's what gravity is. If you palmed a baby brand new, 7 pounds, that's gravity. Studies showed it was anywhere from 70 to 90 pounds of neck or pressure on the baby's neck. And that was with the forceps manual or whatever. But the thing is, have you ever heard of something called colic? Acid reflux, ear infections, those type things. So if you're ever in our office and you see babies coming in, you're like, what did a baby do? Birth. I don't know if you ever, obviously I haven't had a baby, but if you think about the process, it's not a stork flying in. There's push, there's pull. But one of my favorite statements, one of my mentors helped with pediatrics and whatever, it was just like, as a tree bends, so it grows. And it's very powerful. So it's kind of fun when you see kids who are, colicky and crying all the time and they're coming in. And then later it's kind of fun when the kid is just cucumber. We had a little kiddo come in just yesterday, and he's been in care since he's just a little fella. And he was out in our lobby, and he tripped on his shoe and just jacked his head against the front desk. I was in the back, and I heard a thud. And then, you hear the wah. Well, I wrapped up with a patient. It was the end of the day, so we went and checked in one more time. And holy cow, the muscle spasm at the base of the suboccipitals or the base of the neck, whatever. And we just a super light check. It's so light. It's not the big scary YouTube version. If you're ever going to see those chiropractic videos, no, it's not that. But the big thing is it's so light, so gentle. He just turned into butter. And his mom came in today, which was super fun. And she's like, oh my gosh, it was totally instantly changed. But it's just simple. It's super cool just to see those kiddos just be their best potential as well. Other slips, falls, traumas, they all add up. But auto accidents, Arthur Croft, he's probably one of the most top renowned spine experts. And he said, it's not the big bang boom, it might only take 4 miles an hour if it's not corrected to cause permanent ligament damage. And you got force equals mass times acceleration. So if you got a big old metal box you're flying in, it doesn't take much for that head and neck to really get an issue. And I challenge everyone to drive for an hour at 4 miles an hour. You aren't getting anywhere. But the thing is, this is the person that might have some other health challenges. We'll tie into that a little bit later too. Toxins, we call it food, but it's not. I'll just tell you that right up front. It's not food. Different medications, pills or whatever, again, they're there for masking the symptom. The ideal goal is for people to not have to take anything, and I can't tell people to not take medication. It's not my license. Same thing for any practitioner who's not a chiropractor to tell you to not go to a chiropractor. It's also not in their license. But I can't tell people I'm not taking them, but I do, again, have pharmacists, and it's just a common sense. that these things are chemicals, and if you put them in the body of a healthy individual, it will make physiological changes. So there's no such thing as side effects, there's just effects. But anything that you put into your body, whatever it is, or even this is a big one. Holy moly. Stress. And if you were here, I'd have you raise your hand and say, raise your hand if you think stress has gone up in the past 5 years for the average person. It's through this roof. It's just crazy. But there's all these cumulative amount of effects, and it seems like there's this big, huge, hard thing to do. But what we like to do is do simple. So if you just think about simple habits, activities that people do, simple things like drinking coffee. A lot of people don't realize there's mold in a lot of different coffees or whatever, and they won't get into China, Singapore, Europe, or places like that. So even in care plans, we'll talk about omega-3, vitamin D, or probiotics, but I give people the option as well to say, hey, either healthy coffee or no coffee, just because there's a lot of nasty stuff. I want to make sure it's clean and pure if we're putting anything in our body as well. So anyways, you want to make sure things have good, clean, and pure certifications. This is one of them. It has, again, just these are the worldwide certifications. Can get in about any nation. It's China, Singapore, Europe, all those ones. But the thing is too, just even kosher alone. If we throw the other one, just to get a kosher certification, it's pretty cool. Just to make sure that people are drinking stuff. And the thing has a very, very powerful anti-inflammatory in it, but you can't taste it. It's just food in a sense. But it was cool because my pastor, who's really awesome, super skeptical. But he fell 60 feet, shattered his pelvis in 2006. We helped him out quite a bit, feeling good. He just had this dead, numb foot for the longest time. Halfway through the black, I believe, halfway through a cup of the first black coffee, it has such a powerful anti-inflammatory. He goes, oh my gosh, I'm feeling my sock for the first time in years. So yeah, it's real good. So just simple little things that we can do, but all these cumulative effects, they add up. And that's what we got to find is the stressor. So this incredible nervous system, we have Christopher Reeves here. He was known for Superman, his horseback riding accident, but when he fell off, he landed on his neck. His arms, his legs stopped working. He became a quadriplegic. His 1, 2, 3, 4 arms, legs stopped working. But if you notice this right here is an artificial respirator, and his intestines stopped working. And this is kind of the simple and complex analogy. But the whole point is, from a nervous system brainstem, is if this top spigot on this garden hose was choked off, then I know there would not be proper communication. Same thing is, it's all about communication. If a guillotine happened, you know that there would be no proper communication. But here it is at its finest. If I had to say the best analogy is there's communication from the brain down to every cell, muscle, ligament, tissue. And what that does is it goes down the spinal cord, down the brainstem. And if there's ever any information blocking or whatever, and that's where you get misinformation from the organ to the brain to the ligament, arm. You see, it's just a back-forth system. But if you have improper communication, you're driving through the drive-through, you might order something and it sounds like this. Hi, I'd like to have this. And they say, well, let me repeat back your order. You're going to order up cuts with fries and, well, and that's kind of a silly analogy, but the principle is I had heart palpitations for the longest time and I thought they were normal. I would sit at church with my back next to the pew at the time, and my heart and my body would physically, I felt it go pound, 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 and I thought it was cool, but knowing what I know now, it's not cool. There's just basically improper information on arrhythmias and stomach issues and digestive or whatever, but again, we don't treat those things. We find what are the causes or the stressors in the central nervous system, the spine of the body. So anyways, it's all about proper communication. But what is that most important organ right now? It's pretty clear. We know it. It is the brain. But again, if you have misinformation right up here through that brain and the nervous system, right there, a question if you were here, I'd ask, what could be affected? And if you're thinking about it, most people or some people go everything below. But the thing is, it's above, because don't forget that if the brain sends signals down, it also sends signals up. We had a patient come in, and he came in with upper back pain and excruciating pain. But what happened is we started checking his spine, and he wrote a little testimony on our wall. His name Bobby, powerful, and if you ever read that one, he basically said, hey, thank God I had that pain, because what happened was my depression, actually, my anxiety went away. By the way, we don't treat those things. All we did was treated the central nervous system and the subluxation or the misalignment of the spine. And he goes, you know what? I just have this crazy relief, and I'm not anxious anymore, and it's super fun. That's not uncommon. We get a lot of patients that actually come into us for those things, but we got to find what are the causes, and sometimes it's some things that have happened in the past, some things that are just there's a lot of stuff. That's why you sit down. You got to go deep, because no two patients are ever the same. But if that brain's not communicating, stuff doesn't work. We have the spine, pretty simple. Spine goes down here. There are discs. Wherever there's a disc, there's a nerve. The job of the disc is to protect the nerve. The spinal segment should be nice and plump, or the disc should be nice and plump to protect the spinal segments. And then they come on down through the exiting spots. When we look at the spine, it should be nice and straight. And then we look over here, it should have 3 curves, really for shock absorption as well. So this is probably the biggest aha slide throughout here. And pretty soon we'll be wrapping up. But yeah, if we have an issue right up top here at this top area, this is the aha. I want you to think for just a second, so I'm going to be quiet. But what, if there's an issue here, what could be affected? And the answer is when everyone comes in, they go, oh, everything. And so this is the biggest thing, is if there's issues right here, what could be affected? And this is a person, I've had patients come in with shoulder issues, and it wasn't in their shoulder. Tons of people said, yeah, you're supposed to have shoulder surgery. It depends. Some people need it, some people don't. That's the thing is, but I've had tons of patients who have told to have shoulder surgery, and they haven't, because it's actually in their neck, right up here. I've had people with raging sciatica with 10 years. One guy, Larry, had, what was it, 12 different injections at 5,000 a pop, and passed out on the last one from a raging sciatica. Well, the injection was here, and he did have a disc issue here, but it wasn't until we found out we adjusted, it was super, super light right here in the neck, his sciatica went away. It was so fun. So quality of life, he was actually couldn't walk from his truck to his boat dock, and it took about a half hour. Fast forward throughout care, he's able to walk his daughter down the aisle with no issues, and that was probably one of the coolest. Larry's awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Said his 60s are way better than his 50s ever were. But here's the big thing too. So this is the aha for me, because I had sinus issues, tonsil issues. Some patients have visual floaters or whatever, some things that come up here, but if you follow this vagus nerve, if there's any misinformation we talked right about here, watch this. That goes to the heart. This one goes to the lungs. It's the same one. That vagus nerve also goes to the tummy. But the big aha for me, and sometimes it's the visual learner or whatever, if you brush your tongue real hard, what happens is you gag. You have stimulated the vagus nerve. How could touching your tongue do that? It's the same thing. You just had a negative feedback. So if you get pressure off that, that's the neat thing, is when your body just works the best way it can. This goes down blood vessels, adrenals, intestines. Same thing though is if you look over here, these same nerve roots that go over here on this side of the spine also give here. So this is why you got to check. It's not just one area. Sometimes we focus so heavily on one area that we totally miss what else is going on. So patients who have bowel, bladder, digestive, intestinal, heart palpitations, whatever, again, we do not treat those symptoms or conditions. What we do see is there's something else that's causing them to adapt improperly. So this is the only thing we treat. It's called a subluxation. It is a misalignment of the spinal segment. Again, you're going to get 5 components with it. There's pain or tenderness when you palpate it or touch the spine. It's kind of like going to the dentist. You can poke on a good tooth or a bad tooth and you know which one's off. There's pain or tenderness, muscle spasms, inflammation, abnormal heat, and then restricted functional motion of whatever's on the other end of the central nervous system, cell, muscle, ligament, or tissue. But yeah, you're going to get misaligned vertebrae, swollen discs. You're going to get inflamed joints. Muscles response to that as well too, but yeah, where the body just doesn't work. So again, that's the only thing we treat here at the office, and yeah, it's pretty cool when you're chasing a cause more than a symptom. It's pretty fun, or just masking it. That's probably the biggest thing. So this is Dr. Sue says the weight of a dime. This is a big one. A lot of people who are scared of chiropractic, the amount of force we use is very, very light. It says the weight of a dime on a spinal nerve will reduce nerve transmission by as much as 60%. So here's a big one too, is if I'm trying to turn a light off to a gymnasium, I don't got to use a sledgehammer. All I got to do is do a very light specific pressure. So that's why we don't do any guesswork. Typically a set of pictures and whatnot, and the orthopedic, medical, neurological tests will back up our chiropractic findings. We will rule it all out, but you got to do no guesswork. And then when we do our very, very first test adjustment, functional improvements average anywhere from 50 to 100% on the first test adjustment. Still got some time, obviously, you got a ways to go to fix it, but the reason is when you find the cause, that's when power turns on. It's super fun. So any professional musician, Billy Joel here, and if you gave him a junked out piano, you're gonna end up with a ruckus. But if you take the exact same person, and what you do is you give them what you call it? There you go, computer. All right, so if you take the same person, and what you do is you give them a baby grand piano. He's done it millions of times potentially. what he's going to get is a nice music. So again, God designed us all the same. The brain should work a certain way, but if we have misalignments on stressors on our nervous system, our body, whatever that is, you're going to get an expression of health or you're going to get an expression of sickness. So this is the same. All we got to do is change what's the misalignment or what's the causing it to be out of tune, so you can adapt to your environment. And that's the ultimate outcome. So my health is my responsibility. I think this is the biggest kind of aha moment for a lot of people. But I'm going to let you read through this pretty quiet, but this is kind of why our healthcare system is having a problem as it is. And I want to read that here too, and it's just more I want to question for yourself. If you're thinking about when it comes to health, would you like your doctor? First off, when I usually see this is the other thing. I usually see eyebrows kind of flare up, like what's going on here? When we see this, would you like your doctor to give you a plan that prevents disease? Answer is yes. Well, guess what? That's not medically necessary. Would you like your doctor to give you something that promotes health? Guess what? That's not medically necessary. Anything that enhances quality of life, not necessary. Maintain, prevents deterioration of chronic conditions, not necessary. That's why the United States is probably one of the sickest nations, because that's called a healthcare system, and the biggest contradiction is using something called insurance. We call it health insurance. It's actually, when do we use it, is when we're sick. So it's there for sickness, not for health. So this is why we are a private pay practice, and all that really means is we do not accept insurance with Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Sanford, Dakota Care, TRICARE. I don't care. Every insurance company follows these guidelines. Therefore, we are a private pay practice. So what happens is patients want the best results, and we want to give it to them. So what we do is we remove that portion of it. What we do is we give a patient a super bill. If it's covered or not, it's really based on what the patient has chosen for insurance. But if I asked you, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, I could help you get results, but would you like me to treat your insurance plan or you? Hands down, if you want results, you would want me to treat you. So that's kind of why we do what we do, because it's only about pain, then we're missing the whole boat. But there's different guidelines on this as well too. So anyways, if that makes sense, that's why we do what we do. But we'll give you a super bill if it's covered or not. It really depends on the policy that you've chosen. And the main reason why is we don't roll the dice with your health. Because if you're looking for actual results, and if I follow those guidelines, it's kind of a sad story. And I won't do things illegally or unethically. And I think that's the biggest thing, is sometimes it was a challenge ethically where I could probably put something where insurance would pay for it. I just can't do that. I know we have a totally different functional thing, and I stand behind who we are as practitioner here, or as a clinic, and I want to make sure I do things legally, ethically. If we did that, I just want to make sure we do it the right way. So anyways, the fallacy of the feeling good, the 3 leading causes of death, anything from heart disease, cancer, or stroke, the early symptoms are nothing. And that's where one of my mentors actually went out on a walk on a Wednesday. No, what was it? No, he went in for a spinal. Oh, that's what it was. He went for a cardiovascular check on a Friday. All good, great. And then he Tuesday or Wednesday, the next day, he went in and had a quintuple bypass. So the question was he really healthy? Or was something missed? And that's the whole thing, is we got to look at, pain is only 10%. We got to look at the functional component. That's what we do. But we have to ask the right question. If we had to ask the question, what is our most important asset? It is your health. Because when you have your health, you can have everything. How you eat, how you move, you think. We were really involved at our church, and there's a lot of people, again, the biggest prayer request is health. The biggest cause for medical or biggest thing about bankruptcy is health. So it's the most important asset. When you have that healthy mind, body, spirit, that's just when it's in the good stuff. But what is health? It's not how you look or how you feel. It's really how you function. And when you function the right way, that's what it's about. Nothing that controls all function, brain and nervous system. Your brain and nervous system control every single function. And if there is a subluxation, that's where we get dysfunction or disease. And there's a Merck Medical Manual. We went through the pathology courses when we were going through all the schooling and whatnot. And it was interesting. One day I was like, I wonder if there's a definition of health. And I flipped through, and there's osises and itises and all these things, but there's not a definition of health. And that was the part that was unfortunate. So if there is a subluxation, you get dysfunction. Ultimately, that's what disease is. And the only profession that detects or treats subluxation is a chiropractor. Now, and that's the whole point, is proacting versus reacting and checking out your spine before it becomes an issue. because that's the big thing. A lot of hospitals are already full anyways, and if we can proact it and not have that problem, that's one of the best things too. But I'll just tell you right up front, there's a lot of chiropractors who do not treat a subluxation. I've lectured to our state association. I've lectured at Stanford Medical Research Center. I've lectured across the nation on this. And again, this is that whole Dr. Chestnut. He has the research there about subluxation. If anybody ever wants it, you can have it. But unfortunately, when people end up treating an insurance plan more than a patient, they're the most adamant people that say that, even as a chiropractor, my beautiful profession, who say that doesn't exist. And that's the unfortunate thing, but they haven't seen the research. I'm not against them. There's just, I'll just tell you right now, there's some people that don't. And that's the unfortunate truth about that. So step one is really to find out what condition your spine is in. The reason people brush their teeth, it's not because they might have gingivitis or cavities. It's because every day they see them. They see their teeth. They see their teeth. Because if you're told to take care of your teeth, and not everyone does, by the way, but if you were told to take care of your teeth and you looked in the mirror and you saw a big green leafy thing, you're going to pick it out immediately, even though you know it won't cause gingivitis. But that's the whole point, is take care of your spine, but you got to know what it is. So again, these are different things that chiropractic conditions. Remember, these are not things we treat here, but these are the things that people have flipped around here. When someone sees even the cancer one, again, we don't treat cancer. My dad actually had non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and he went through the 40-day thing down in Omaha, and literally it killed the guy to the point where, I mean, he had no muscle strength function. Came in, we did a super light, I checked some muscle neurological stuff, and it was just toasted, fatigue, everything. We did a very, very light adjustment, and boom, his power turned up, or his function popped up pretty substantially too. So, but again, yeah, we don't treat those things because, again, I don't, but you just treat the environment. You find the stressor on the central nervous system, how you eat, how you move, how you think. It's a big component of everything there too. So I just thank you so much for your time. Again, we wanted to wrap this up in less than 45 minutes, so that's good. Our goal is to, I say about 37 was our shooting point. So I hope you have a very, very blessed day. Hopefully this is educational. Hopefully it was informative. But again, if you know someone who needs some health help, let us know. If they live in a different state, we'd love to help them. But if you live here in specifically in Sioux Falls, or about within a 3-hour driving radius, we'd love to serve you and just see, is this something that is an answer? And if we can't find the answer, we'll serve you and find someone else too. So one of the biggest things, the caveats, is I do want patients who are serious about their health, and that's about it. As we have it, it's called SHE, S-H-E. It's not a gender thing as much as we want a serious, hopeful, and educated patient. And that's the whole point of this, is hopefully you were educated today. But again, the patient has to be serious about their health, and we're going to give you hope. I got tons and tons of patient stories. We got the research. No one cares about the research, unfortunately, but I got patient stories just to give hope. That's what it's all about. But if a patient's serious and they're hopeful and educated, this is when we get the best results, and we're shooting for that sweet cake. And that's what we want, is good health for a lot of good quality life later in life. So I just thank you for your time. I hope you have a very, very blessed day. And yes, take care. Bye-bye.